Hello everyone! Last week we finished up talking about the zones in Northrend, we talked about the Argent tournament and the infiltration of the frozen halls. Now there's nothing left but to enter the halls of Icecrown and face the terrors that the Lich King has saved for us within his Citadel. Let's begin, shall we?
This is our final stand. What happens here will echo through the ages. Regardless of outcome, they will know that we fought with honor, that we fought for the freedom and safety of our people. Remember, heroes, fear is your greatest enemy in these befouled halls. Steel your heart, and your soul will shine brighter than 1,000 suns. The enemy will falter at the sight of you. They will fall as the light of righteousness envelops them. Our march upon Icecrown Citadel begins now!
You now stand upon the hallowed ground of the Scourge. The light won't protect you here, Paladin. Nothing will protect you.
Arthas! I swore that I would see you dead and the Scourge dismantled. I'm going to finish what I started at Light's Hope.
You could have been my greatest champion, Fordring. A force of darkness that would wash over this world and deliver it into a new age of strife. But that honor is no longer yours. Soon, I will have a new champion. The breaking of this one has been taxing. The atrocities I have committed upon his soul. He has resisted for so long, but he will bow down before his king soon. Never! I will never serve you! In the end, you will all serve me.
The Paladin still lives? Is it possible, High Lord? Could he have survived?
The power of the light knows no bounds, Saurfang. His soul is under great strain, but he lives. For now.
Then we must save him. If we rescue Bolvar Fordragon, we may quell the unrest between the Alliance and the Horde.
Could it be, Lord Fordring? If Bolvar lives, mayhap there is hope for peace between the Alliance and the Horde. We must reach the top of this cursed place and free the Paladin!
High Lord Bolvar Fordragon survived the events of the Wrathgate and is being tortured by the Lich King to turn him into a servant. Both the Alliance and the Horde make it a mission to save Bolvar, since this might quell the unrest between the factions. As we venture through Icecrown Citadel, we encounter several different bosses, but not all of them have that much story, while some of them are really interesting. We start off with Lord Merogar. He's the guardian of the frozen throne within the Spire Chamber. Pieced together by the Lich King from the bones of 1,000 vanquished adventurers, Merogar wields the power of the throne itself. Without the destruction of this bony being, there is no hope of taking Icecrown Citadel.
I see only darkness.
The Lich Lady Deathwhisper is the supreme overseer of the Cult of the Damned. Entering her room triggers her speech, in which she talks about how all of them found their way because they're amongst the few gifted with a true vision in a world cursed with blindness. She calls the meat on their bones a curse, a weakness, a crippling flaw as a joke played by the creators upon their own creations. They see being turned into the undead as a great honor, but some speculate that she's talking about more. The old gods cursed some of the Titan creations with the curse of flesh, which made them weaker. It literally gave them flesh and it made them more vulnerable for their corruption. Some speculate that the old god Yogg-Saron had a lot more to do with the events of the Lich King, considering that one of his visions as you enter his mind is of the Lich King torturing Bolvar. Serenite is Yogg-Saron's blood, which was used to build up the Citadel, and this speech all seems to connect to Yogg-Saron with the Lich King. It's never really been confirmed though, so speculation is all we have.
All part of the Master's plan! Your end is inevitable!
The Icecrown gunship battle is a little bit strange story-wise, but it made for a pretty damn cool fight. Both the Horde and the Alliance, they're assaulting Icecrown Citadel at the same time, and tension between the two factions are high, since both factions lost a whole bunch of people at the Wrath Gates. Both factions want to desperately reach the perfect vantage point, take down Arthas and save Bolvar to bring peace. So they want it so bad that they decided to blow each other out of the sky just to get the glory.
Don't say I didn't warn you, scoundrels! Onward, brothers and sisters!
The Alliance falter! Onward to the Lich King! You dare board my ship? Your death will come swiftly!
After the gunship battle, we meet another victim of the Wrath Gates, Deathbringer Saurfang. This is High Overlord Saurfang's son, who lost his soul to Frostmourne and has been turned to a Death Knight by the Lich King.
My boy died at the Wrathgate. I am here only to collect his body.
Stubborn and old, what chance do you have? I am stronger and more powerful than you ever were.
We named him Dranosh. It means Heart of Draenor in Orcish.
Both sides defeat the Orc, where on the Horde side, Saurfang collects his son, but on the Alliance side, you see a bit more conversation.
Soldiers, fall in! Looks like the Horde are coming to take another shot! Don't force me hand, Orc. We can't let you pass.
Behind you lies the body of my only son. Nothing will keep me from him.
I can't do it. Get back on your ship and we'll spare your life.
Stand down, Muradin. Let a grieving father pass.
No ko kills Ilnok, Atar. I will not forget this kindness. I thank you, Highness.
I was not at the Wrathgate, but the soldiers who survived told me much of what happened. Your son fought with honor. He died a hero's death. He deserves a hero's burial.
Respect is shown, and Saurfang takes his boy home. Rotface and Vestagut, they don't really have a story besides being created by Professor Putricide, who they see as their father, and they love their pets very much.
Good news, everyone!
Professor Putricide has perfected a plague which will eradicate all life on Azeroth, and he's probably responsible for most of the abominations and creations that we've seen in the Scourge army.
Bad news, everyone! I don't think I'm going to make it.
Foolish mortals. You thought us defeated so easily. The Sand Lane are the Lich King's immortal soldiers. Now, you shall face their might combined!
The Blood Prince Council consists of 3 Darkfallen princes, which we encountered and defeated before. Darkfallen are vampiric undead blood elves resurrected by Arthas after they defeated during Warcraft 3. Prince Khayllys, he was the first boss of Utgard Keep and the Scourge Overlord of the Howling Fjords. Prince Valanar, he was the Scourge Overlord of the Borean Tundra and taken out with the help of Visarion. Prince Teldaram, he was the second boss of Ankahet, where he was searching for lost Nerubian relics to empower the Scourge's murderous ranks and please the Lich King. With the Darkfallen Orb empowering them, they tried to stop our assault, but they failed, and the next encounter was against their Blood Queen Lana'thel.
You have made an unwise decision.
Not all the Blood Elves that were turned into Darkfallen, they died while fighting together with their Prince Kilfa Sunstrider. Some of them survived a little bit longer in Northrend, they were left behind by their prince, and one by one, Arthas picked them off, converting them into his dark army. Lana'thel was one of those survivors, and with the legendary blade Quel'Dalar, she tried to hold her ground, but the might of Frostmourne, it was simply too great. She lost her life, and Arthas decided to not only turn her into the undead, he also made her the Blood Queen of all the Darkfallen. Lana'thel eagerly carried out her new duties given to to her by the Lich King, but the blade, it reminded her of her former life as she could not afford such distractions. With a scream that echoed throughout Icecrown, she shattered Quel'Dalar and she flung the fractured pieces as far as she could. Heroes would later find the battered hilt of the weapon, restore the legendary blade, while Lana'thel found the demise within Icecrown.
But we were all getting along. So, well.
Valeria Dreamwalker is one of those bosses that just seems very random, since all we know is that she's a captured green dragon, and they tried to destroy her so that they could resurrect her into an agent of the Scourge. By resurrecting her health, we gave her enough power to shatter her bonds, she liberated herself, and then she simply disappeared into thin air.
I am renewed! Is Sarah grant me the favor to lay these foul creatures to rest?
Finally, there's Sindragosa, a blue dragon in life. She was the prime consort of the blue dragon aspect Malygos.
You are fools who have come to this place! The icy winds of Northrend will consume your souls!
During the War of the Ancients, they created the device known as the Dragon Soul, later to be known as the Demon Soul, which was planned to be used against the invading Legion. What they didn't know was that Deathwing, he was corrupted by the old gods, and he didn't just use the device against the Legion, he also used it against the Night Elf forces and his fellow dragons. With its power, he nearly wiped out the entire Blue Dragonflight, including Sindragosa. The blast of the spell hurled her all the way to the cold north. Blinded and near death, Sindragosa sought desperately to reach the Dragonblight, the place where dragons go to die. No longer able to fly, Sindragosa plummeted to the cold earth in the region of Icecrown. The blue dragon gathered what remained of her energy and called out to Malygos for aid. Her only answer was the howling Arctic wind as she struggled on, but the distance was far too great. Agonizingly, she realized that her spirit would not find rest within Dragonblight. Her life continued to fade away as her sanity deteriorated. In the midst of her delirium, Sindragosa's final thoughts turned to bitterness and hatred. Hatred against the Legion, hatred against Neltharion, hatred even against Malygos. But most of all, hatred against the world of mortals. And in her dying moments, Sindragosa vowed revenge. Now many years later, Arthas used Frostmourne to resurrect the mighty blue dragon, and she was forced to fight for the Lich King. The whole revenge bit never made it into the overall storyline, since she seems pretty happy that we take her out and liberate her from the Lich King's control, very similar to Anubarak, for example.
Can you feel the cold hand of death upon your heart?
Now with all of his creations, all of his powerful minions defeated, it was finally time to join Tirion Fordring upon the top of Icecrown and finally face the Lich King himself.
So, the Light's vaunted justice has finally arrived. Shall I lay down Frostmourne and throw myself at your mercy?
We'll grant you a swift death, Arthas. More than can be said for the thousands you've tortured and slain.
You'll learn of that firsthand. When my work is complete, you will beg for mercy, and I will deny you. Your anguished cries will be testament to my unbridled power.
So be it. Champions, attack!
I'll keep you alive to witness the end, Fordring. I would not want the Light's greatest champion to miss seeing this wretched world remade in my image.
Tirion is placed within a block of ice, and heroes have to deal with the Lich King themselves. There seems to be a glimmer of hope on the horizon though, as his health slowly drops, but then the Lich King, he unleashes the fury of Frostmourne, taking out all the heroes gathered.
No questions remain unanswered. No doubts linger. You are Azeroth's greatest champions. You overcame every challenge I laid before you. My mightiest servants have fallen before your relentless onslaught. Your unbridled fury. Is it truly right righteousness that drives you? I wonder. You trained them well, Fordring. You delivered the greatest fighting force this world has ever known. Right into my hands, exactly as I intended. You shall be rewarded for your unwitting sacrifice. Watch now, as I raise them from the dead to become masters of the Scourge. They will shroud this world in chaos and destruction. Azeroth's fall will come at their hands, and you will be the first to die.
Throughout the entire expansion, the Lich King has watched us, pitched us against the mightiest of foes, making sure that when the time was right, he would have the mightiest heroes the world had to offer, ready to be converted into his ranks. He might have won that day, might have recruited the most powerful heroes into his army, was it not for Tyrion and the Light's blessing.
Light, grant me one final blessing. Give me the strength to shatter these bonds. No more, Arthas! No more lives will be consumed by your hatred!
Free, at last. It is over, my son. This is the moment of reckoning. Rise up, champions of the light!
With one single strike, the Ashbringer shatters Frostmourne and 1,000 vengeful souls are released, holding the Lich King high in the air. King Tyrannus resurrects the fallen heroes, and together they end the nightmare. Together they defeat the Lich King.
Now I stand, the lion before the lambs, and they do not fear. They cannot fear.
Father, is it over?
At long last. No king rules forever, my son.
I see. Only darkness before me.
Without its master's command, the restless Scourge will become an even greater threat to this world. Control must be maintained. There must always be a Lich King.
The weight of such a burden. It must be mine, for there is no other.
Tyrion! You hold a grim destiny in your hands, brother. But it is not your own.
Bolvar! By all that is holy.
The dragon's flame sealed my fate. The world of the living can no longer comfort me. place the crown upon my head, Tyrion. Forevermore, I will be the jailer of the damned.
No, old friend. I cannot.
Do it, Tyrion! You and these brave heroes have your own destinies to fulfill. This last act of service is mine. I must be forgotten, Tyrion. If the world is to live free from the tyranny of fear, they must never know what was done here today. Tell them only that the Lich King is dead, and that Bolvar Fordragon died with him. Now, go. Leave this place, and never return.
And there ends the story of the Lich King. However, his actions still echo throughout the storyline to this day, and his legacy will not soon be forgotten. When you defeat the Lich King while holding Shadowmourne, you'll get a sealed chest, which High Lord Darian Mograine will open up for you, and inside there are some special items which you can turn in with the respective owners. These are the conversations that wrap up minor bits and pieces between Arthas and characters that were very important in the storyline, and a big thank you to Hazedshaman for letting me use his recordings.
Arthas. Alas, hero of Azeroth, you give me a greater gift than you know. Long have I struggled to forgive the prince for his terrible transgressions. My soul has been racked with unbearable anxiety, dark thoughts, distancing me from the light. I recall clearly the gleam of pride in his eye as he stood before me, eager to defeat the enemies of the light. Eager to defend his people, no matter the cost. It is this memory of Arthas that I choose to keep in my heart. I shall always be in your debt, friend.
Uther's soul finds rest, and he decides to remember the good side of Arthas.
Oh, lad. How I miss those endless days in Lordaeron. Sharpening your skill with this dull blade. Forging you into a weapon meant to withstand the demands of a great destiny. You sure put them skills to use, didn't you, lad? If only I'd been able to stop you that day, how different things might have been. If only I'd have never discovered that accursed blade. Farewell, Arthas, my brother.
Muradin wonders how things could have been different, and he decides to remember Arthas as his brother.
Father.
Darian, my son. At last, I am able to lay my eyes upon you again.
Father, I feared for your sanity.
The Lich King tormented me without end, Darian. Endlessly, he sought to break my will, to force me to serve him, to bind me to his blade. Finally, when events demanded his full attention, he left me. The one memory I clung to, Darian, the one thought that kept me from giving in, it was your sacrifice, my son, that again saved me from eternal peril.
Father, for you, I would give my life 1,000 times.
Alexandros Mograin's soul finally finds peace, and Darien, he would later show up in Draenor, searching for some way to liberate Bolvar out of his fate as jailer of the damned.
What's this? He kept it. All this time, he kept it. I knew. I sensed a part of him still alive, trapped, struggling. Oh, Arthas. Perhaps he might someday remember what he once was. By the light, may he at last find rest, free from the icy grip of that terrible blade.
Arthas kept a reminder of his love for Jaina, something she always knew deep down in her heart. She hopes that his spirit will find rest free from that accursed blade, but unfortunately, that's not what the future holds for Arthas.
So, it is done. I had not dared to trust my senses. Too many times has the Lich King made me to be a fool. Finally, he has been made to pay for the atrocities he imposed upon my people. May Azeroth never fail to remember the horrible price we paid for our weakness, for our pride. But what now, hero? What of those freed from his grasp, but still shackled to their mortal coils? Leave me. I have much to ponder.
Sylvanas would later travel back to the top of Icecrown, where she found out that Bolvar is the new Lich King, yet her purpose, her whole mission, was complete. She got the revenge that she desired, so she tossed herself off the top of Icecrown in an attempt to end her undead suffering. Instead of ending it though, she found herself in a whole new realm of suffering, a hell where the spirit of Arthas was being tormented as well. This would be her fate, but luckily for the Banshee Queen, the Valkyr, they came down and they offered her a deal. They would ally themselves with Sylvanas, they would take her place in hell in case she died, and they would resurrect more Forsaken troops to bolster their ranks. In exchange, they would be free from Bolvar's control, and knowing the hell and the torment that waits for her, Sylvanas agreed.
With the death of the Lich King, many of the more intelligent Scourge became unemployed. Those fiends, as you so delicately put it, are called Valkyr. They are under my command now. And they are part of the reason that I asked to see you.
Get on with it, Sylvanas!
Very well, War Chief. I have solved the plight of the Forsaken. As a race, we Forsaken are unable to procreate. With the aid of the Valkyr, we are now able to take the corpses of the fallen and create new Forsaken. Agatha, show the War Chief!
What you have done here, Sylvanas, it goes against the laws of nature. Disgusting is the only word I have to describe it.
War Chief, without these new Forsaken, my people would die out. Our hold upon Gilneas and Northern Lordaeron would crumble.
Have you given any thought to what this means, Sylvanas? What difference is there between you and the Lich King now?
Isn't it obvious, War Chief? I serve the Horde.
Watch your clever mouth, bitch!
The Lich King story ripples on throughout Warcraft, even to this day, but for now, the story has come to an end. Thank you all so very much for watching and joining me on this incredible journey. This has been the biggest project that I've ever done, the biggest story I've ever told, and I hope I did it justice. As always, ladies and gentlemen, subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time guys, see ya!